I've said this before and I'll say it again. I really like Justin Gaethje. And one of the big reasons that I do is because he knows who he is. He knows who he is as a fighter, right? And the way that plays out in this scenario is that he knows that he cannot win a decision against Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is an animal, right? I mean, we've seen him in these fights. His cardio's through the roof, actually cranks it up as the rounds go on. Starts out round one kind of slow, right? That's one of the dirty little secrets about Tony that nobody really talks about too much, is the fact that he's a slow starter. If you look at his fights, he doesn't win a lot of first rounds. Okay? It's a funny, an interesting little thing about him. Justin Gaethje, on the other hand, couldn't start faster. Loves getting out there, getting on that first round, getting straight after it, right? Getting the KO. But that's one of the things about Gaethje. He knows it. He said in a few interviews already, he's like, man, I got about 18 or 19 minutes. Now, during that 18 or 19 minutes, I couldn't be more dangerous. He comes out with he's got that right hand. He's got those vicious leg kicks. But the fight's scheduled for 25 minutes. Yeah, you can bring 18 or 19 minutes and it can be just furious. But if somebody can last through it, and you can make it to those last 5 or 6 or 7 minutes or whatever it happens to be when your gas tank runs out, what happens then? Right? And what happens then when you're dealing with a guy like Tony Ferguson, who's just a complete animal, who's going to come in there, who's got submissions, no cardio issues at all, every strike in the book, leg kicks, elbows, can work in the clinch, can back you up against the cage, lands punches from crazy angles. I mean, can you make it through? What if you bring those 18 or 19 minutes and you can rack up a few rounds in your favor? And then Tony has to get the finish in the last 6 or 7 minutes, right? I'm not saying that's what I think is going to happen, but just in theory, what if you were able to do that, right? Gaethje was able to make that happen. Those 18 or 19 minutes were so good. He racked up the first 3 rounds. Tony had to win the fourth, and get a finish. Could you make it? Could you survive the last time when your gas tank ran out and you couldn't actually win the round, but could you survive and not get finished and then win on points? Personally, I don't see it happening. That's not the way I think this is going to play out. If this was to go a full 25 minutes, I think it's a very, very, very high probability that the winner of the fight would be Tony Ferguson. I don't think Gaethje can win a decision. I don't, right? I mean, you look at it. Tony Ferguson typically loses the first round, right? So let's just give that one right out the gate. But the second, the third, the fourth, I mean, you're telling me Gaethje would have to win another 2 of those and then survive all the way through the 5th round when he's openly coming out and saying, I've only got about 18 or 19 minutes in me. Tony is a cardio freak. I don't see it happening. I don't even think he's going to have a game plan that's going to facilitate, that's like geared towards him going 25 minutes. That's like really made for that. You know what I mean? I mean, if it works out that way, then I get it is what it is. But I think when they're sitting there in camp, they're training him and Trevor Whitman, those guys, they're designing a plan, they're implementing it. I don't think it's geared towards Justin Gaethje going 25 minutes and winning the decision against Tony Ferguson. I mean, why would they do that? That's not where his strengths lie. I mean, ultimately, he got the little delay, still didn't get a full camp. But even with the full camp, I don't think that's the way that they would play that. I don't think that is what Gaethje's strengths are relative to Tony Ferguson. I think he's got to go in there. I think he's got to look for big shots. I think he's got to be explosive. Particularly, he's got to land that right hand, leg kicks, and land in the right hand. I think he's got to look for the finish. Not be reckless, not go crazy with it or anything like that, right? Obviously, you don't want to get crazy or reckless against a guy like Tony Ferguson. That's just inviting disaster. But definitely, I think he's going to be aggressive. I think he's going to push it early on. I think he knows Tony's a slow starter. He's going to try to use that to his advantage because he's a fast starter. He comes out there and he's got a bomb in his right hand. He can land a hard shot, throws it from multiple angles, multiple ways. Mix that with those leg kicks, his pressure. Tony keeps his head up a lot, man. He kind of stays on the center line sometimes. So, we'll see what happens. But win a decision? Nah, I don't think that's in Justin Gaethje's playbook in this one. I think he knows it. I think he's honest with himself. He's already come out in these interviews, and pretty much said that. I don't think that's going to change. I think he's going to come out there, man, and he's going to just put his foot on the gas pedal 100% right away, and we're just going to get a treat, right? We're going to get a treat of a fight because we know who Tony is. I mean, he's as tough as they come. So it'll be he won't back down from anybody. That's not even how he envisions anything going. So it should be a great fight. I'm really looking forward to this one. There's a lot of nuances to it. Both of these guys are so highly skilled. But one of the things that I don't see happening in this fight is Justin Gaethje coming out with a decision victory.